Wow, that was a great show that Nolly and I just did. We broke down some great games. We hopefully gave you some good information and found some good numbers for you to get on, cash. And of course, if you want to watch the full show, all you got to do is click on the link below.
That being said, truck right along. We're going to continue right into the SEC. We've got Alabama going on the road to face South Carolina. And Alabama coming off a tough road loss to Missouri. I mean, you're talking they were getting blown out in that first half, down 16 points in the first half, down 22 at one point in the second half, came all the way back just to lose by 3 points against Missouri. Alabama has been extremely good here against the SEC. 10-1 against the SEC. South Carolina, complete opposite, 3-5 against the SEC. And when you see their record kind of going back and forth, win loss, win loss, win loss. Ultimately, South Carolina 5-7 straight up, 5-7 ATS, 7-5 over under. This is a SEC matchup. I mean, I would expect Alabama to sit here and bounce back. I mean, do we think a hangover after that big game against Missouri? Missouri really being the only team in the SEC really contending at the top with them. I mean, do we see a hangover here, or does Alabama come out angry here, Max? How are you looking at this?
Well, I actually took this game already, but the lines moved completely completely in favor of me. So it's going to suck that I'm going to have to change my pick last minute. I already bet South Carolina plus 7.5. I think that I'm only seeing 6.5s out there at the variety of books that we can use on the show. And I'm really worried about this game for Alabama because it is a ranked versus unranked. We know how they do so far this year. Not very well ATS. We also know that there's a possibility that Herb Jones doesn't play with a back injury. And when you take him out of the lineup, in addition to Jordan Bruner, you just really highlight and emphasize the major weakness for this Alabama team. At the beginning of the year, it was not having a true pass first point guard to operate the offense. Well, listen, you got Josh Primo, 6'6", Canadian, cold-hearted basketball playing genius. Okay, so you don't have to cry about that anymore. Roll Tide, roll, baby. But now they have this whole issue in the front court. Alex Reese is definitely serviceable, but he is undersized. He can get into foul trouble. And I think that this is where Alabama is going to be at their biggest disadvantage. In games that Alabama wins, they score over 70 points, plain and simply. That's what happens. If they can get their offense going, then they're going to win games. If they don't, then they're going to have an Oklahoma or they're going to have another Missouri. They have not been good on the road. They have lost quite a few conference games. This team just does not have that same confidence on the road. And even more so now, they're going to be that much more dependent on Jaden Shackelford and John Petty to score from the three-point line. So if this three-point shot isn't dropping for them, not only could they lose this game, also, this game could be a major under. So with South Carolina and Alabama, what I've noticed from reading the game logs and watching the games and betting on the games live is that these numbers in the 150s and the mid 150s have been staying under. They've been staying under by significant amounts. We've seen two South Carolina games, specifically against Georgia and Florida, that were in the 150s, stayed under by 13 and 16 and a half points, respectively. The last four games that Alabama's played, we've seen in the range of 148 to 164. And anywhere in between, we've seen unders stay under by 19, 26, 19 and a half points. So as much as this is going to upset people that don't like to bet unders, Noli, I'm taking the under in this game. I would have taken South Carolina at plus 7.5, but if it's no longer there anymore, then there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to take a worse line on the show, especially when it's a full point. So I could be eating crow on this total very early in the day, but from what I've watched and Alabama being on the road and not being at home, I like the prospects of this game staying under.
I mean, I don't know who doesn't like to bet unders, but I don't know. We might be able to say that they're a lost cause. If you don't like betting unders, you might be a lost cause. I don't know. But you know what, Max? I got some good news for you. BetMGM is laying that 7.5 for you. So if you want South Carolina, you're still able to get the 7.5. Would you like that?
Absolutely. I'll take that 7.5. I just want to point out also, Noli, I don't just favor Canadians on Alabama teams. I do favor Canadians that play in all Division I teams. So South Carolina's going to have the services of AJ Lawson. It's going to be critical for them to disrupt him, turn him over, and keep him off the glass. And if the three isn't dropping for South Carolina early, they're going to go to the rim often on many possessions. If Alabama can avoid this road softness, this lack of quality bigs, and limit the supporting cast of Justin Minaya and Jermaine Couisnard, I think that Alabama should be okay, but I just don't think they're going to be able to do that. Their liability on the offensive glass, they can't take the ball away from you. They can't protect the rim adequately. And if they don't establish their three-point shot early, well, they're not going to score really efficiently from anywhere else on the floor. I think that their three-point defense will determine whether or not the spread comes through for us. But at 7.5, it's just too much value to pass up. So I'm good and gravy with that, bro.
Nice. I like that. I like that breakdown. And then as far as the total, we got pretty much everywhere. We got 155.5, except for at Circa, we got 156.5, minus 110.
Yep, I'll definitely take that. Circa is definitely not afraid to post another number, and that's why they're a book that I would like to use.
Yeah, I've been noticing that. I didn't know that before prior to doing these, but I'm noticing the Circa's getting some good numbers, especially totals wise.
Well, they're not afraid of winners, from what I've heard. So they're probably one of the best legal books out there.